So in today's video, I wanted to talk about a really common thing that comes up with my students and offer you some practical solutions to the terrifying thing that is training your ears. So ear training is a bit of a buzzword online, and it is something that is both very, I think, misunderstood while also being something that's incredibly beneficial as a musician. As a teacher, I spend a lot of time transcribing music that there isn't tabs for online, and I just use my good old-fashioned ears. In my university training, that was something that was covered quite a bit. We had to do 2 years of very intense ear training in that program, and I hated it at the time, and our teacher, God bless Mary Jo, was a total hard ass, but I fortunately got the chance to thank her afterwards, where I said, I'm able to support myself as a musician because of your class. So ear training is a very, very useful skill, but many of us either are not at a point in our lives where we can go back to music university, or we're just not going to music school because it's incredibly expensive, which is fair enough. So I just wanted to tackle a little bit of stuff that you can do at home. This is maybe going to be a series of videos. I'm only going to talk about one aspect of ear training and what you can do and how to make it practical on the guitar. And so today we're going to talk about intervals. I'll make some follow-up videos on chords and other stuff. But so one of the first things that you cover in ear training in a music school is interval training. And the thing with intervals that's great is it's a lot easier to pick out single note melodies than it necessarily is chords, because chords, obviously, there's a lot more information and there's a lot more room for ambiguity. Whereas if you're listening to something and you hear a melody that goes, you might recognize that from The Simpsons. But in that, there's no ambiguity to this. These are the notes that are being played that you're trying to pick up, right? And so the first kind of thing that I would recommend you to try, just as a personal challenge, is every day try to transcribe a little bit of a melody. It could be an intro from a YouTube video. It could be the song you heard on the radio coming home from work. It could be a song that you've been listening to a bunch. Just try to pick up a little bit of it. A little bit every day goes a really, really long way. A lot of people I find with ear training set themselves goals like, I'm going to learn this entire solo, or I'm going to do this entire big project. And that can be daunting, especially at first when your ears aren't super trained. So one thing that you can do is whatever you were listening to, just kind of put it on. I'm not going to use a song and demo this because YouTube is then going to demonetize the video, of course. But if you were to go through and you were to say, hear the song, listen to it a bunch of times, and just try to find the notes on the guitar for like a 10-second or 20-second chunk of it, and just try to find your notes on the guitar. So say I hear there's a melody, and the melody of the song is... Try to find those notes on the guitar, and you just keep rewinding back and forth. You go, oh, okay, that's an F or whatever. Keep going, and you go through that, and you just try to find little bits of it, because a lot of people like to kind of put things off until they have the perfect plan, or they feel they have the tools to do it. And this is something that I think is a really good way of just jumping in. So just start transcribing little bits of music. You'll get better and better at it, and you'll start to build this connection. Sometimes my students are really surprised with my ability to do this, but as you transcribe, I'm a big fan of actually using the guitar when you do it, because you'll start to build a connection to different notes and different registers on the guitar, and that will help you transcribe more music in the future. If you aren't familiar with the word transcribe, it means hearing and then figuring out. So that's one thing that you can do. Now, for a more structured approach, I said I was going to talk about intervals in this. So there's a lot of great resources for ear training. If you are an Apple person and you have an iPhone or an iPad, there's the wonderful app called Earpeggio. I don't believe it's available on Android devices, but online there's a whole bunch of tools as well. I've had students use, I think it's called Teoria. I'll link to it down in the description, but it'll do a similar thing. And so if you open the app, you want to look for something called, or if you're on Teoria, we want to find interval identification. This is something you can do to train your ear to start hearing melodies and start kind of decoding music, because most of us will never have perfect pitch. If you don't have perfect pitch, it's a remarkably hard thing to develop, and some people would say you can't even develop it. What you want to have is relative pitch. And what relative pitch means is if I hear this, my ear is going to go, okay, that was a major sixth. Now I just need to find one of those two notes. And if I know that the first note is C, I know the interval of a major sixth, so I've already filled in the blanks that the next note is A, because that's a major sixth away from C. And so one slow methodical way you can go through about actually training this is interval identification. All of the different apps will have different settings that you can use to start kind of capturing these. I would recommend staying within an octave for the first one. So the options would be something like unison, octave, minor second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, diminished fifth, perfect fifth, minor sixth, minor seventh, or major sixth, minor seventh, major seventh, and then octave. And what I would recommend you do is most apps will have an ability where you can say it's from a fixed root. And I would always recommend starting from a fixed root, because then you have something in your ear to actually compare against. So if the one interval you hear is this, you hear that that's a perfect fifth, then you go to the next interval in the test, it'll say, you can then use your kind of knowledge to know, okay, well that sounds smaller than the last interval, so I know it's not bigger than a fifth. It's not a sixth or a seventh, it's a fourth, third, or second. And then once you get more comfortable with this, then you can change it so that you don't have a fixed root or a constant root. But just to give you an example, I've opened up the interval identification part of this app, and I'm going to go to this test. So what it's going to do is it's just going to play an interval at me, and I'm going to have to figure out what it is. Now, when you first start doing this, I would say do it with a guitar so that you can figure it out. Some people say that you should just kind of brute force your ear to try and hear these things, but I'm a really big fan of being able to kind of contextualize it within the guitar, because that will kind of trigger when you're listening. You will almost be able to picture how you would play said thing. So, from this fixed root, I would use your guitar to try and figure out what that is. So I'd go, look at that, it's a major third. And let's say I don't have really well trained ears and I'm you trying this out. You can play it again. And then you just go from your C, so I know that that's my starting note, and you go, it's not a second, it's not a minor third, perfect fourth sounds too big, look at that, it's a major third. And then you can connect that in your head, see the ding, I got it correct, you get it that way. Then you go next question. So that one is a really small interval. It's a minor second. But again, if you didn't know that right off the bat, that's okay. You find the note on the guitar and you go, okay, I know what that is. Ding, I got it correct. Then, once you start being able to get it every time, then try it taking away the guitar. So this next one I'm going to do no guitar. Sounds pretty sad to me. Maybe that's a minor third. Oh, look at that. I was correct. And so taking away the guitar will give you that way to get out of it. Now let's say this next one I do it without the guitar. Let's say I guessed that was a minor third. It's not a minor third, but let's say that that's what my slightly untrained ears thought. So it's actually a major third. When you see that, then bring in the guitar and re-drill and that's what a major third sounds like. So you're constantly subjecting yourself to training your ear and getting it more difficult. Now once you get to the point, interesting interval there. Once you get to the point that you can do it without having to use your guitar and you're getting, say, 90% of them correct. Let me listen to that again. It's a major second there. So when you get those, once you start getting it right, then you can do something where you would say, you change it, the app will have different language, but you want it to not have a fixed root. So what that does, let me just show you in the app. Quit this session. Ooh, that was a nice minor sixth. But you can change it root note. In the app Earpeggio, you can add a bunch of different roots. Some of them it'll just say like random root, and that's awesome. So if you were to do that, like here, I'll just add in root. Oh, fixed root note. Just turn it off. Okay, so now. So I overshot that. I'm doing my best music student impression. But now it's not going to be the same root every time. That's a perfect fourth. And then this next one. Sounds like a major second to me. But again, that went from the first note was F sharp. I went then that was. So it starts moving around. And the reason that this tests your ear a little bit more is that you're not necessarily, you don't have the same bass as you do when it's all off of the same root. Because if I know that's a fifth and then the next one is, I go, okay, that was a bigger interval than a fifth, or that was a smaller interval than a fifth. When they're random, it ups the challenge a little bit. And then same thing, I keep going on that with the guitar to decode it, and then without the guitar to decode it. And then once you get 90% or more on that, you can keep doing it. Sorry if you heard my phone just go off there. But using these little tools, so again, I'll link to the website that some of my students use. If you're on Apple, you can use Earpeggio. If you Google it, best free ear training app for Android, I'm sure there is a comparable option for you. And the great thing about those is that you can do them while you're on the bus or on the metro. You can do it while I was going to say driving to work, but please don't do ear training when you're on your way to work. But this just gives you a super flexible option. And again, if you do this for 10 minutes a day, every day, you will start to see huge improvements in your ability to hear and understand music just with your ears. And again, this is just kind of an introduction where we're talking about intervals. I'll do some more videos in the future about how you can work on your knowledge of chords and work on all of that kind of stuff. But the big kind of thing here is worrying about intervals. And again, this is the first thing that they would teach you if you went to music school and you were in an ear training course. They start out with intervals, and this is a great way that you can practice it at home, and you can find ways to work on it on your own time rather than having to pay thousands of dollars to go to university, which is maybe a subject for another video. But I really hope you found that useful. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe. It truly helps me out more than you could know. The good old algorithm loves nothing more than that. If you want to take a guitar lesson with me, I'd love to work with you on whatever's troubling you on the guitar. There's a link down in the description. I've been working with a bunch of you guys from YouTube lately, and it's been so fun to connect with people all over the world. If you want to support me and this free educational content that I put out, you can subscribe to my Patreon down below. Down on Patreon, you get early access to videos as well as some cool behind-the-scenes stuff that I don't publish on my main channel. Another great way to support me is purchase my ebook, Scales and Arpeggios for the Modern Guitarist, or my video course all about triads all up and down the neck. They're very reasonably priced and cover a lot of great information, a little bit more in depth than I would go into in a singular YouTube video. Other than that, I've got at least 2 videos coming out every single week, so I hope I'll see you in the next one, and until I do, I'll wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you get to have some fun playing the guitar. Thanks for watching.